Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week, we are reading Parasha Korah. It is a fiery portion, both figuratively and literally, at the end. But I want to talk a little bit about just the first few verses. Korah has become known in the Jewish history, our Jewish tradition, as really the first rebellion against Moses, against Moses' authority, and to some degree against God. And I want to dive into that a little bit and try to figure out what was going on and what ultimately Korah did wrong and why he and his followers got the punishment that they did. So, if you want to play along, you can turn to page 860 in your Humashim, the larger of the books that are in front of you. And we're in the book of Numbers, the beginning of chapter 16, and it reads, "Now Korah, the son of Yitzhar, son of Kohat," goes through all of his lineage, son of Pelet, descendant of Reuven. He took all of these people with him. Actually, Korah was a Levite, but Datan and Aviram were from the tribe of Reuven. He took all of these people to rise up against Moses, together with 250 Israelites, chieftains of the community, chosen in the assembly, men of repute. So these were not, the rabble, so to speak, right? These were leaders within the community. And they combined against Moses and Aaron and said, "You have gone too far, for all the community are holy, all of them, and the Lord is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourself above the Lord's congregation?" So the first question is, what is their claim? What is the charge that they have made against Moses and Aaron that brings them forward? Neil.
That they are all supposed to be equal under God's eyes. God made them all a holy nation. Why are you at the next level then?
So we're all supposed to be equal, right? God made us all a holy nation, which we're going to delve into in a moment. And why do you put yourself above everyone else? Okay. Anybody else? Well, I think you're right. That's what it says here on the surface. But I guess my first question is that true? Right? Is Korah, Datan, and Aviram, are they right in all of this? And if so, why the punishment at the end of this parsha? And pretty severe punishment. The earth opens up, swallows them all. So I'm going to argue today that Korah, Datan, and Aviram were actually correct. Their claim that all of Israel is equal, all of Israel is holy, is not something that they made up. It's actually right in the Torah. It goes back to Mount Sinai, right? It goes back to the book of Exodus, where God declares, "Ve'atem tiyuli goy kadosh." You all are going to be for me a holy nation. Everyone's holy. Everyone's holy. So the claim that Korah, Datan, and Aviram are making here is absolutely accurate. Right? The whole nation is holy, not just the priests, not just the leaders, not merely Moses. And I would argue that Korah has identified one of Judaism's most powerful and radical ideas, that holiness does not belong just to an elite group of people, but holiness belongs to everyone, at least within the Jewish people. We can have that other conversation, right, after that. So the question is that what's going on here, or is there something else that's going on? Karina? Okay, so everyone is holy, but perhaps everyone has a different role or a different job, right? How do we say that today? Separate but equal, maybe? Right? I don't know. Right? It's everyone has that sense of equality. Everyone's the same, but there are different roles, there are different things that we do. Anybody else? Please. So maybe these laws that look like they're about equality are actually about something else. I like that. Howie?
Yeah, I don't think at all that it's that they're right.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
So the crime here is that they've co-opted God's holiness that He says everyone has into a jealousy that someone is in a position they are not.
Ah. So what Howie's getting at here, and mark this down because it doesn't happen often, I agree with, right, is actually what's going on here is not about their claim, it's about the motivation of the claim, right? Perhaps they're using this claim to achieve something else, and they've realized, hey, this is an angle, this is a way that we can try and get what we're looking for here. Why are you? We're all supposed to be equal. What he's really saying here, Korah, is why are you and not me? Not why are you and why didn't we have a democratic vote, right, to see who the people want as their leader, but why you and not me? And I think that's a very valuable insight. I want to go back and just reaffirm the idea that we were saying before. The Torah, in a lot of different places, creates a sense of equality when it comes to our relationship with God. That is actually something else that is a little radical within our tradition, within Judaism, right? Just because I am standing up here, I am teaching today, doesn't give me any closer relationship with God than anybody else that is in this room or not in this room. That sense of connection, that sense of equality is something that we really learned at Sinai. There were no good seats and bad seats at Sinai. Everyone heard revelation at the same time in the same way. It was personal, it was communal in this weird sort of way at the very same time. Everybody heard, everybody witnessed, everybody entered into the covenant, and no Jew possesses a more intrinsic holiness than any other Jew. So again, Korach's claim here is right. He's right. That is exactly what God has taught, that is exactly what God has said, but perhaps the motivation is the issue. And I actually want to combine both what Karina said and what Howie said today. I think where Korach takes the wrong turn here is he assumes, let's take it at face value for a moment. So we're going to follow Karina's line of thought, right? At face value, if everybody is equal and everybody is the same, he assumes what that means is that no one should occupy a unique role. No one should occupy that role of leadership or that role of being different or having different jobs. Now, we know for a fact that that's not the case because throughout the Torah, we've already divided the people of Israel up into different roles. We've got the Kohanim and the Levi'im and the Israelites. Each one of them do something different. As they're traveling through the desert, everybody had different roles to play when it came to how the tabernacle was run, how prayers were done. Everybody had a specific place to be camped so that as they moved through the desert, different tribes actually got to be in the front. Different tribes were in the back. So there are different roles. There are different jobs that we have. And equality of holiness, equality of dignity, doesn't actually require sameness of responsibility. And there are needs for leaders. Every single musician in an orchestra is vital, but you still need a conductor, right? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to make the music that you want to make. As good as all of the individual musicians are, that leader helps to bring it together, and that's their role. And the reality is the conductor probably can't play violin the way that the first violin can play, because that's not their gift. Everybody brings their gift. So, number one, equality of holiness doesn't mean that there aren't different responsibilities, different roles, different jobs that we each have to do. And to some degree, it's our obligation then to find that. To find what part do we play in our community? What gifts do we bring into our community? And for everyone, it's different. For everyone, it's different, right? Alan is a member of our board here. We have lots of board members that are here today. Every single one of them plays a different role. And just because some of us talk about Jewish ritual and some of us talk about finance and some of us talk about solar, all of that is important. And all of that makes the community as strong as it can be. So Korah begins with that initial belief, that rightness, that every person possesses holiness. And then he makes a leap. He basically says, well, I am equally as holy to Moses, therefore my opinion, my gifts must be equal to his. Or that is not necessarily the case. We see that throughout. Even our leaders are corrected. Abraham argues with God. Moses is corrected. David is rebuked. Prophets challenge kings. Rabbis challenge each other. That's part and parcel of who we are as a people. That's what we do. The Talmud, for those in my Beit Midrash class, you know, the Talmud encourages disagreement. So, what's the issue then? If it's not that there's a true difference and everyone is in fact equal, then perhaps it is his motivation. And that is the classic rabbinic understanding of what's going on here. As a matter of fact, in the Mishnah, the rabbis use this particular case as the example. They're having a discussion of what are arguments for the sake of heaven and what are arguments not for the sake of heaven. And Hillel and Shammai, these two rabbis who disagreed with each other all the time, are arguments for the sake of heaven. And they go so far as to say not only did they argue with one another, but their sons and daughters married each other. They lived in that same world together. They coexisted in their arguments. And what is the example of an argument that is not for the sake of heaven? Korah. Because it was about his own personal motivation and his own jealousy. For me, I think there's another level to this that we often, and especially in today's day and age, I think we get wrong. Holiness, while the capacity for every single person to be holy, to have holiness in their life is equal, I think what Korah got wrong is he assumes that holiness is a gift. Nowhere in the Torah does God say, I am giving you this gift of holiness. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. Kedoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy. Make yourselves holy. Here, where we just talked about in Mount Sinai, tihiyu li goy kadosh, you will be for me a nation that is holy. Holiness is not a gift. Holiness is a choice. And that puts it into a very different realm. How do we choose? Each one of us has that personal choice to decide how we're going to express that intrinsic holiness that is within us. And then that allows us to bring those gifts, to bring that holiness into our communities, into our families, into the world that is around us. On this Parashat Korah, I encourage us to think about the choices we make to share that intrinsic worth that each and every one of us has. How do we motivate ourselves to find places that we can add value, to find places that we can add holiness, that we can add joy, that we can add the gifts that we have, that we share, into our community, into our world, and into our families? If we do that, then we have looked at this Parasha Korah and learned from it, maybe this isn't the direction we need to go. Maybe instead, there are other choices to make. Shabbat Shalom.